So I know this is our first time doing video work on these podcasts, but there was a there was a topic we talked about quite a long time ago, and it was the Madonna-Whore Complex. And I thought it might be really good for us to revisit that old idea. It is an old idea from Freud, but I'm sure that humanity has at some level been aware of it for over 1,000 years.
Humanity
As in,
because I've never been aware of it.
right, but I'm sure there have been other people around the world who've been aware or observed that there are situations or relationships where a man is very excited about somebody sexually,
Mm.
so long as he doesn't respect them. And that once he begins respecting them as a human being and he sees how noble their character is, how kind, how loving,
Mm.
how full of integrity they are, then he has a hard time having sex with them. And there are variations on this theme,
So
where,
that's just to reiterate, the one idea is I'm dating a woman and I'm loving the sex and it's amazing. And then once I start seeing who she is and that she's kind, I would be then turned off by that, or that is with some guys. Because for me, I feel like now, I don't know if that's just from having these conversations with you. Like, I feel like I'd love it if she's a cool person and
if she was kind
if
and
she is kind and all that as
passionate and
well.
all of that, yeah, you would. And and there's a reason for that I want to revisit or take a look at again. Um, Maybe later in this, but I want to explain that it's really common for there to be some sort of divide between my sexuality and my spirituality.
Mm.
And so my spirituality may have all kinds of values like kindness, compassion, love. I value intelligence. I value loyalty. I value all these other things. But then there's that party girl who's just really a hoot on the weekends. And she is so fun because it's all without commitment. And she's liberated and wild and free. And it just, and she promotes those feelings in me. And I can be myself in a way I never could with that girl I met at church.
Mm. Yeah.
So there's that spiritual values that I have, which is the bedrock of all spirituality, my values. And then there's, what really excites me sexually. And I can give examples of this if that would help.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, so you're saying a guy who's going to church, it's like I value this nun kind of a woman who's very plain, but then they really want the wild thing. They want,
Well, it's actually more insidious. And I don't, and I
and you're
did,
saying that I'm not into this because I'm anti-religion? Or
no, because I think there are people who take some pride in not being particularly religious who actually have the same phenomenon
Mm.
because this way of thinking, this, if you will, this irrational belief that a woman can't be both of a sterling character and be sexy as hell. There are people who have that belief, whether they're religious or not.
So really quick, that's what it is. It's people do not believe that a woman could be both of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, or we could go on the women's side too later, but as a guy, it's like me not believing that this wild, sexy woman could be also kind, or this kind woman could be wild and sexy. That's where the disconnect comes in.
Right. And you're quite right in pointing out there is a male version of this
Hmm.
where it's all in his head, but there's also a female analog that a lot of people aren't aware of. So we should talk about that. And the one I'm thinking of a client from long ago, and he wasn't a religious person until he got serious about his wild, crazy girlfriend.
Okay.
And then he gets serious about the girlfriend, and they end up getting married, having a child. And between the marriage, the pregnancy, and the childbirth, all of a sudden he becomes a conservative overnight.
Mm.
He goes back to the religion of his youth, which he had let go of long before, and he starts practicing his faith. And but he can't very well have the same freedom that he had when he was this younger version of himself with this very attractive woman he found sexually alluring.
But why did he go to become a conservative? Was that because he thought, now that I'm being serious, I have to go back to church, or was that his wife or his partner?
Well, he wasn't a Christian, so it wasn't church, and
Oh,
this individual happened to be Muslim.
hmm,
But it could be somebody of any faith
hmm,
or of no faith. It's just that when people sometimes encounter concepts like childbirth, pregnancy, and religion and commitment of any kind,
hmm.
all of a sudden this is getting real,
Yeah.
and then they go back to the only foundation they have for organizing their ethical ideas,
Hmm.
and that foundation, I don't know exactly what your background is, but let's say,
Catholic.
okay, so it would perhaps go back to your Catholic background and your values you were taught before you were even of the age of puberty.
Yeah, which were nothing. Because Catholicism is like very boring, and I got nothing out of it aside from it's a bore. It tired me. I mean, I learned nothing from it except
Well,
that adults are boring.
I I do think there's more to it than that for all of us, because I think religion is in the air around all of us on this planet.
Hmm.
We all catch certain values and certain ways of treating people. So if you were very sexually freed up with this wild, crazy new girlfriend who was equally freed up, and the two of you were having a great time sexually,
Hmm.
that might not be the same way you present yourselves, say 6 months later when you take her home to meet mother.
Hmm.
You might be toning it down significantly.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't probably be advertising to your parents, well, I'm with her for obvious reasons. She's totally hot.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Dad, I got to tell you what she's like in bed. It's so amazing.
Uh,
I've never had any sex like this in my life. And it's not like you're going to start referencing Catholicism, at that point.
yeah.
And so for all of us, even if we've let go of religion
Hmm.
deliberately and intentionally, and we've embraced our sexual liberty and we're just living our lives, we've never really been taught, how to think about these different aspects of human beings, and thinking of them as a whole. Like, so many women have rightfully complained about, well, I think he only sees me as a sexual object,
Yeah. I've heard that.
right? So, and men have complained, well, I think she only sees me as a success object,
Hmm.
because, it's really, if I didn't have my job, I don't think she'd be into me.
Yeah.
But for a lot of us, then we do start developing real feelings, perhaps at some point after we're both sexually involved.
Hmm.
And then we become aware of this human being is more than just a pair of sex organs on a set of legs. There's actually like a full service human being,
Hmm.
capable of deep thought, capable of deep feelings. He or she has these remarkable insights into life. There's somebody, I could imagine making my life with.
Hmm.
This is really a surprising upgrade from what I thought I had.
Yeah.
And then they're at a loss, because I don't know any religion out there that has ever taught anybody how to truly embrace their sexuality, so that once we start seeing the other person as as the amazing human being they are, then all of a sudden we feel sheepish about the sexual component. So knowing you as I do, you might feel shy once you started respecting a woman fully about doing some of the crazy sexual monkey antics that you do, with your typical partner.
Well, I'll tell you right now that, well, I started it like that, but um, I mean, just to be completely vulnerable, I don't think I've ever done the crazy monkey antics with a woman before. And I'm 41 years old. So listen, take that, listeners, because I don't think I felt safe. Or when I did bring stuff up, I got shut down. And when I did ask to do something, it was like, that's stupid. So it's like, to me, I wasn't even able to have the wild monkey stuff because I didn't have a safe relationship. That's why when we talk about like intimacy and like actually having a person that listens. So it's like, for me, I had the kind of opposite sort of experience.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, again, I have a number of clients who have had that same experience. And whether it's in the church or in a religion or out of a religion,
Yeah.
they eventually end up getting married with this person. And then
Before the wild stuff?
they never get there, just like
Okay.
you. I'm
Yeah.
using an
Yeah.
example
And I've
that's
had like,
that's parallel to your
yeah,
own.
yeah, got it.
And what I see happening is by the time they get to my office, these guys are sneaking around looking at porn
Hmm.
because it's super hot to them, or they're going to visit sex workers, either prostitutes in a brothel, street prostitutes, or the so-called massage parlor
Yeah.
sex worker, getting the happy ending. And I
It's
don't, I feel
becoming all
very,
too real, Steve.
I
You're
feel
like,
very uncomfortable with your smiling and laughing at that, but you know that because we all need both.
yeah.
We need, I mean, the idea that, well, I married her because I loved her and I wanted to have a life with her, but
Hmm.
I hadn't factored in that I would be sexually bored and at a standstill for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you kind of, I mean, come speaking from experience, you just kind of make it, this is the way it is. Like, I've
right.
talked about this with numerous stuff that we talk about. It's like, this is the way relationships are. Once you get past the dating phase, this is just how it is. Like, I don't deserve to have the fantasies that I want to have. I don't deserve to have the sex life that I can imagine because it's not realistic. And like, that was in my head for a long time. And then I feel like this is the same for these guys, possibly. I don't know, but um, when you have that sort of thinking, you kind of accept that, and then porn becomes normalized and all that sort of stuff. I have so many friends that just are in relationships, they're still using porn or
Right.
whatever else they're doing,
Yeah, to
cheating
take
on their
care.
girlfriends.
Exactly. To
Yeah.
have an affair is the same thing as using a sex worker
Hmm.
at that point because something vital is missing from my sex life
Yeah.
in my marriage, in my committed relationship. And so I find myself gravitating to that. And you could be very moral about it and resist the temptation. But very few men could say, oh, no, I never have those thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, especially men who are in a boring, unsatisfying relationship,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
So,
So there's this desire for both. And why is that? Oh, well, because as humans, we do have spiritual needs, of course, and we have sexual needs. We have intellectual needs. We have emotional needs. We're complicated. There's a whole lot going on in here.
mhm.
So for me, it means I've got to be able to find a partner with whom I can hand in hand step onto the path, going into the deeper, darker parts of the forest and explore who we are. And that journey is one of growth.
And I like that really quick. I mean, can you elaborate on your idea of stepping into the deeper, darker forest, or you also say it as wading into deeper waters and why that is good to go slow?
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of explain that because without a partner, first of all, you can't really do that much because it's a journey for two
Too, yeah.
in a bond of intimacy.
Mm,
And intimacy, as we use it in this podcast, is the ability to safely share our lives with another person. So, with a professor at the university, perhaps I have intellectual intimacy, or even with a parent and a young child. And the child shares, I think the moon is made of green cheese, Daddy. And instead of laughing at her and making fun of her, to say, really, tell me more.
yeah.
And
Mm,
where it's safe to share who you are. Well, when it comes to sexual intimacy, most people use that expression as a substitute or euphemism for intercourse.
mm,
I'm not talking about that. This is like the step or the many steps later in the relationship. And it's, like I said, it's not static. If your relationship isn't going to become boring, it needs to be always growing.
mm,
And the thing about sexuality is it's always growing because none of us disclose everything about who we are up front, largely because we don't know everything about ourselves up front until we have some more experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also true that what worked for me back in 1985 isn't really that interesting to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking necessarily about sexual technique, but just certain ideas. Because 1985, I was young enough to just be, oh my gosh, she likes me. She really likes me. And, you know, that was enough.
Yeah.
She's willing to be seen with me in public.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious, how wonderful that is. And then once I start accepting myself and growing as a human being, what was once amazing is now my new normal. It's my new minimal standard for entering into a relationship that's based on equality. So intimacy is a journey, and the sexual intimacy that she and I experience is like a journey down a path in a dark forest where I've never been before.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a path. I can see where we're going, but I don't know where the path heads, and I don't know what are the views. In other words, where's the beauty in the next 100 yards? It might be a flower, it might be a tree, it might be a broader vista of a meadow or something beyond, but I don't know what's there because I've never been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never been here before.
Yeah.
So the two of us are in this childlike sense of wonder over really how fantastic it is. And it isn't, oh, my sex life is fantastic because, oh, she does every position, you know, in the Kama Sutra. And we've got thousands of dollars invested in our favorite lube company. And we keep it in a 55-gallon drum with a squirt thing at the bottom where we're pumping it, you know, by the quart into our bedroom. No, it's not. It's not about titillation.
But I feel like most people think it is that.
Yeah, and it's that's one reason why I'm delighted to do these podcasts with you, because I think so much of the world tends to either be ignorant of or to minimize sexuality because they feel shy, sheepish, and they just don't even know. So for you mentioned fantasies, and how many of us share with a new girlfriend on a first date what our fantasies are?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, she's not a girlfriend; she's a first date.
Mm-hmm.
So
slow down, Steve.
Yeah, right. So, but as we get to know somebody, we sort of parade our sexual thoughts in a very minimal fashion, building up until we hit a roadblock or some sort of a stop sign that says, whoa. And she gives a shocked reaction, or he gives her a shocked reaction. No, I don't roll that way. I don't think that's right. And the other person is faced with this dilemma. Do I keep my partner happy and repress this part of myself?
Yeah.
So that I don't lose the relationship? Or do I disclose to my partner, well, this is who I am, and these are my thoughts. I was hoping you really wanted to get to know all of me.
Yeah.
And then that's, for most people, that's a very scary thing to say.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Back then. I would now, though.
You would now because you've grown to that point?
Because of all these conversations we've had. And I know that that situation of repression, that model, like you say, that's just not going to work for me. And I feel okay to let it go and to not grasp so tightly onto something, to lose myself in that way of not getting what I want or what I need in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, a really rough parallel would be you have a political perspective on life, and you begin sharing that. She expresses disapproval. You can either repress that and be forever subservient to her standard, or you can go on to say, well, you know, it's possible I'm just not the right guy for you because I actually do have some political thoughts that might be different from yours. I was hoping you'd be delighted to get to know me.
Yeah.
and or she can say that to him,
Hmm.
and it takes some courage. And it also, I think, that courage is aided by a practice of developing a life worth living prior to cultivating someone for a life worth sharing. If I don't have a life worth living, I really can't say that I'm fit to pursue sharing my life with somebody else, because this POS piece of shit life that I have
Hmm.
is just miserable, and won't you please help me make it feel better?
Yeah.
And instead, oh, if I'm happy with my life as a single person, I feel pretty comfortable with myself, and I'm okay with my point of view on politics or religion or sexuality or anything else, and I'm just looking for somebody I can share that part of me with.
Hmm.
And then you get shut down. Well,
Yeah.
I think the clear answer is keep looking.
Yeah, but it's that I think is the hard part for most people, because like even I was in a relationship and we talk about commitment and how commitment should be a gradual pathway.
Yeah.
Most people are in relationships within a month, 2 months, 3 months. I would say maybe 1 to 6 months. Maybe that's the average. I'm just making that up, so don't quote me on that. But I feel like from what I've observed as a person, like it's pretty quick and there's a lot of pressure to just lock it down. And I remember in one of my relationships, locked it down fairly quickly, and then we moved in fairly quickly.
May I ask,
Yep.
did you lock it down as quickly as you did because you were afraid of losing her?
No, I just thought it was love. I thought it was like a connection that's like, oh, we're
It
still
was.
connected. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think it was love.
Hmm.
And so your belief was, if you love someone, then you must act immediately.
Yeah. I
Okay.
thought that was how I thought about it. And it just felt like if you like someone, why not be in a relationship with them? And but without even thinking about the intentional interview, like we talk about, like even asking any questions about finance, future, sexuality, with like none of those discussions, just kind of going with the flow of things. So then after we moved in, like a year or two later, I brought up something about like sexuality and what I was interested in. And she's like I said, like talking about wearing like an outfit. And she's like, well, that's stupid. I don't like that. Clothes come off anyways.
And you said, I didn't mean you. I was going to wear that outfit.
Yeah, I wish I did. I wish I was that quick back then, but I wasn't. I was just like, oh, I said something that I shouldn't have said, and we're already together, we're already in a relationship. I'll just forget about it. But then it's like, then you start doing behaviors like watching porn or doing something that you shouldn't be doing, and then,
Where with porn, you have the fantasy of being free.
hmm.
And I think you, maybe unintentionally, brought up the great example of the female analog,
Hmm.
because she has her own version of the Madonna-Whore
Hmm.
paradigm that she is applying now to you,
Okay, so how does that work?
where you said, well, I'd really like it if you'd wear this sexy outfit. And she said, I think that's stupid, or whatever she said.
Hmm.
And then you immediately shut down and stopped sharing
Yeah,
those kind of thoughts.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And that does not do anybody any good. Like
no, it
for
really
this, it
doesn't do
destroyed
anything.
the sex. I'm not at that moment, but I mean,
You mean shutting it down, shut your disclosures?
not only disclosures, but just even having it essentially. It became like a huge form of anxiety to even bring anything up, because it's like I just didn't know how she would react to it and that sort of thing. And I didn't know how to navigate the situation. So I was just kind of like at the standstill, not having any, like the words, having no words for how to describe it. And again, not thinking like that I was asking too much, like kind of like that kind of feeling.
You were asking for too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know. Another motivation I have for doing these podcasts and talking to people about what I've learned
Hmm.
is that it's so hurtful to be confronted with that kind of rejection, and to have to try then to live with it over
Yeah.
months or years. And I really just, I've experienced it, and I don't want anybody else to have to live that way.
Well, that's why I like doing it too, because it's like I see the benefit for myself, like going forth, like creating the life worth living and being comfortable being alone and not feeling so gotta grab it, gotta lock it down, and just feeling open that there are many billion, you're always like billions of people on the planet, so it's like,
Yeah, she's not the last one.
yeah, but I have that mentality. And then also when you're already committed super early, you're moved in together, at that point, it's like that disclosure should have happened way sooner, I believe,
Or
during.
at least maybe not so much in terms of sooner,
Mhm.
but certainly prior to
Prior to
moving
moving
in
in.
and
Yeah.
all the rest that goes with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me the sequence of events. It's like, she and I might date 3 times, 5 times, 10 times before we exchange so much as a kiss,
Yeah.
because we were just really enjoying getting to know each other and it's so much fun. But eventually, and most of us fantasize at some point, there's going to be a kiss, which is a symbol of affection and a deeper level of acceptance. And the kiss, I think the conservative religious are quite right. It is a sexual statement. And we are sexually communicating, I find you attractive, I want you in my life,
Mhm.
I like being in your body. And unless we're able to navigate that, there's not much point in then going on to express our deeper thoughts that are riskier and all the
Yeah.
rest. How many times, and this happens in the movies often enough, but it's happened in real life, I think, where people, like a guy initiates a kiss
Mhm.
only to have her turn her face away.
Yeah.
And that feeling that goes with that for him is not a good feeling.
Mhm.
I mean, unless he's in a really good spot and then he might feel mildly amused,
Mhm.
that she got shy after giving him so many come hither messages.
Mhm.
But in any case, it's an opportunity to build more intimacy.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I thought I had while we were talking, I was listening to you and thinking about how hard it is for a lot of my gay clients to come out.
Mhm.
And, whether they're talking to a man or a woman, or at work or in their social life, if they haven't yet come out, there's a reason for that, right? And it's in some ways too bad that the whole language around coming out makes this burden special on gay people. But I think gay men and women are often the tip of the spear that leads the rest of us towards spiritual and sexual intimacy, because they do think about these things in terms of acceptance.
Mhm.
And then they do test the waters and they do face rejection.
Mhm.
Whereas I think the majority of heterosexuals give up at the first sign of any resistance.
Yeah.
She makes a face when you say, hey, sometime we ought to go to a spa and, have sex in a jacuzzi or something. And she makes that face and says, oh, I guess that's not something she wants to do.
Yeah.
Or she says, oh, let's go get a hotel room. That would be fun. I love hotel rooms.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, wait a minute, how many guys you've been in hotel rooms with?
Yeah.
What's going on with that? And he again, he's had sex with her multiple times and he knows she wasn't a virgin, but all of a sudden he has reservations now that,
Mhm.
wait a minute, she's not as Madonna-like as I had fantasized. I thought I was the only one in her life. Well, no, you moron. Of course she had a life before you.
Mhm.
She's 30 years old. She's been kissing on men since she was whatever age and had a sex life before she ever knew you, and only shut down her OnlyFans page recently.
So that's another thing, though. The guy could be like, she's less Madonna than I think, and then that could get him in some trouble within it as well.
Absolutely, because
So if
at
I'm,
that point he knows she's recreational in his mind.
okay.
Oh, I could never bring this one home to mom. And then there are the guys who cross the wires. Yeah, she's smoking hot, and I really like the sex with her. It's so crazy. And I do want to marry this girl, and I do want to introduce her to my mother.
Hmm.
But for many millions of men, navigating that, and women, I need to be fair on that.
Mm-hmm.
Navigating that is extremely difficult. Another example, the old joke, and it's told in various models depending on the ethnicity of the people telling the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But the one food that you can feed a woman so that she never engages in oral sex or gives a blowjob ever again. And the quick answer is, oh, wedding cake.
Mm.
And because again, it's difficult to navigate that Madonna-Whore complex once we've transitioned from being more or less casual to more or less committed.
So is that because you do it in a church, like
Well,
say the vows, or
maybe we don't do it in a church, but invariably, if you ask people whether they think matrimony is a sacred institution,
Mhm.
really the majority of people still think that way.
Yeah.
And I think if they don't call it sacred, they at least call it very special.
Mm.
And they may not have the words to describe how special, but really that's all sacred means is set apart, special, different from others. So when we start thinking that way, well, isn't something supposed to change? Maybe. Maybe things are supposed to change, but I would argue they're not supposed to change in terms of less freedom of expression between two people who love each other.
Do you have an example of why that is, why that happens? Because it's like it seems very familiar to me. Like people get married and then
Things change.
sex life goes down. Like the graph is like this, and then marriage, and then kind of like, yeah. And then
Yeah.
especially like 5, 10 years in, whatever it may be.
Well, of
Doing it.
course, we don't have sex like we used to because we're older now. I mean, we are 29
Mhm.
and, or we've been married for years and it's that same old over and over. But those are false reasons, again, because it doesn't take into account the nature of intimacy, which if it's alive, it's growing.
If the intimacy is alive, it's growing. And the intimacy is
Absolutely.
the ability to safely share your life together. So that means you're finding new things out about yourself and disclosing that in a safe way where you're not being shut down and you're not shutting down your partner. And that's what you mean by that. Like,
Right.
and if you have that, that sustains.
Right. So maybe in your first, over time, perhaps we get more comfortable in the bedroom, and occasionally we dream up a joke, and we say some joke that we never would have said back in the early days of the romance of it all and the wonder about the sexuality. But now we're cracking each other up on the regular, and people might think, oh, that shows a lack of respect. But I would argue, no, it shows a burgeoning level of more and more intimacy
Yeah.
because we're safely sharing humor and play with one another.
Yeah.
So if we're not doing that, then the intimacy isn't growing. And if the intimacy isn't growing, oh my goodness, now we have the age-old problem of systematic desensitization. Because after all, I have seen her body before, and it is the same body. And if I don't have the freedom to talk about it, to show my reactions, if I don't have the ability to be sexually free with her and she with me, then we're not able to express the thoughts that are going on in our minds or the feelings going on in our hearts. And how can it be growing if we're not able to express all that? It's funny because I think for so many men and women, the idea is I want to preserve the sacred nature of the relationship. But
Post-marriage, you're saying.
post-marriage, let's say. But I do it at the risk of giving up sharing who I am. All hope of intimacy is now lost.
Yeah.
She's not sharing who she is. And we're in a very static relationship where the stasis is unending.
Well,
Of course it gets boring.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of that comes down to, like we talk about again, the intentional interview. And if you rush things, I feel like if you take your time, like you said one time in a podcast where you would say people shouldn't be in a commit until a year. Yeah, I have you on tape saying that.
Yeah, I deny that. That's fake news. Some AI came up
But it's
with
like,
that.
I feel like that, again, we talk about in this podcast how it's about sustaining and building and sustaining a long-term committed relationship. And I feel like in order to do that, have like, you're always like, what's the rush to? Which I could explain. I feel like I understand why people do rush it, but I feel like that slow build allows you to avoid some of these pitfalls. Like
I
would you
didn't
say,
say it back when you first brought this up, but for me, the motive in locking it down with
mhm,
my first marriage was I was afraid of losing her.
yeah,
And I didn't
to
want,
who, another guy?
yeah, to another guy or to the vicissitudes of life itself.
Mm,
I didn't want us to drift away from one another because I thought she was that wonderful.
mm,
And really she was that wonderful, but we hadn't done any of the other work, to really get there. And the reason I balk at embracing that quote, I think I was talking about specifically a commitment that involves moving in or getting engaged or something like that.
mhm,
And the reality of commitment is that it's on a commitment. I mean, the reality is commitment is on a continuum.
mhm,
So part of your commitment, even on the first date, that's implied is I'm going to behave like a gentleman and I will
yeah,
not hurt you.
mhm,
That's part of the commitment. Part of her commitment there is the same.
mm,
I am going to be on my good behavior. I will say please and thank you, and I will not hurt you,
mm,
at least not intentionally.
yeah,
And so over time, the commitments kind of ramp up. Like say she's irritated with you in month number 3, and you're
mhm,
still not committed, but she says, I notice that whenever we go out, you talk a lot about yourself, but you never ask about me.
mm,
And well, I would say, a legit complaint if that's what was going
yeah,
on. And you might want to argue about that. You might say, well, actually, I remember so many times asking you about yourself
mm,
and you digging in your heels saying, oh, it's boring. Tell me more about you.
mm,
And so you go back and forth until you finally reach some sort of accommodation where you're both getting your needs met and you're comfortable and you're moving forward. Well, that argument, that's part of a commitment too.
mm,
My commitment is to confront my mate, and she is committed to confronting me when they're unhappy, and that we're committed to working things out in an abuse-free manner.
yeah,
And we are committed to finding a solution that works for both of us, trying a few more weeks or months to see how that solution works. And voila, we solved a problem. How exciting. But if we're not committed
mm,
to problem solving and to having the courage to confront one another and to really think through problems instead of saying, oh, yeah, I broke up with my boyfriend. He was just always about himself. Or, yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend because, man, she would just never share anything about herself. And
mm,
then, I think that that's much more common than the couple who actually actively, mindfully uh, get into a conflict with the idea of resolving problems that keep them apart so that they can be even closer. And
yeah,
again, we get to that idea of intimacy is a living thing.
mhm,
It's the living representation of this energy between the two of us in our relationship.
mm,
And that has to stay alive.
yeah,
If one of us is pouting and giving the other the cold shoulder, that's the opposite of intimacy.
mhm,
So when we talk about the Madonna-Whore thing, I know that there's a lot of ways we can shut each other down.
yeah,
Sometimes it's with something demeaning or humiliating. I can't believe a woman that I would like would ever want to do that,
yeah,
or vice versa.
mhm,
And when in reality, my being uncomfortable with that is really about me.
mm,
It's not about, oh, I am so morally evolved that I, within myself, contain the very standard of right and wrong.
yeah,
And I go through life informing people
mhm,
of what they're doing wrong.
yeah,
And none of us are that person.
mhm,
So to say, I think it would be more appropriate to say, gee, I don't know how comfortable I am with that.
mm,
Oh, really? Where do you think that discomfort is coming from? well, I've always been kind of shy and I've never done that with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, once you try on that dress, you're going to love it. It's
Yeah.
so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then just don't think I'm ready for that, you know, and, or vice versa. You know, you wanted her to wear the,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the sexy lingerie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she maybe's never done that. But it's not like, oh, I need that right now, or I will not be able to touch you or enjoy touching you.
Yeah.
And over time, so I know we're running out of time here, and at some point we got to talk about, well, what should people do? And I think there are two steps. One is qualifying the other people that I'm dating, the other person, qualifying them by simply sharing a bit about who I am. And if they react in an abusive way to shut me down,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's actually disgusting. I can't believe you'd ever want that.
Yeah.
That kind of judgmentalism when you're being open and vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
say on a 10th date, you share something, or you share something about your sexual history
Mm-hmm.
and from 5 years before, and you had a partner who did something that was amazing. And even though the relationship didn't work out, you really enjoyed the sex life the two of you had. And then you get shut down or shamed over that. You
Yeah.
sure do think about sex a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think if we can't get past that, then I would say the person is no longer qualified for further consideration.
Mm. But it's easy to say, but then I feel like doing it is a whole other practice because again, it's like that neediness that we talk about.
Yes.
And it's like, I will give this up because I haven't had a girlfriend in 5 years. I got someone talking to me,
I
whatever.
don't, yeah.
I could live without that if she's,
Well,
and I
yeah.
feel
And
like
so you're untrue to yourself. So we're really not having true intimacy because she's not really relating to me, who I am. She's relating to the me I burnished, polished up
hmm
for her present, you know, her approval.
yeah,
And I think then the love that I'm afraid of losing, I just automatically lost because it's no longer me. And this goes with our other earlier observation. I should have already developed a life worth living where it's okay out of, 5 billion women on the planet if a couple don't like me.
yeah,
I mean, being rejected by the right women is important
hmm
because then I get to just move on and spend time looking for a better fit.
yeah.
The second step, besides qualifying, I think,
And that qualification really quick, that's what we talked about with like, that would be classified under the intentional interview.
absolutely.
And
And does she really want to get to know me?
and you do that slowly, kind of like wading into the forest or wading into the waters. It's not like you're like, here's a big disclosure, date one, let me
Yeah.
lay it on you. It's like you're just slowly, we talk
Yeah.
about laddering up the disclosures, like giving something like
Yeah.
you.
Nobody jumps to the top of a ladder in real life. We step up step by step by
Mhm.
step. And the same way I think the same idea applies to intimacy in a relationship. We don't put out, my name's Steve. I was convicted of a sex crime last
Uh,
year. Do you want to go out?
uh-huh.
Well, no, because nobody would want to go out if that's all they know about you.
Mhm.
Um, and I just think there's no rush for that kind of disclosure. But then you get to a point where you've requested something a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary. Like,
Mhm.
for example, you've never kissed her, and you like the idea of kissing her, but it's just never felt quite right.
Mhm.
And I'm going to use a word that people who are counseling sex offenders use, and DAs use it all the time, and the word is grooming. There is such a thing as making systematic desensitization work for me.
Mhm.
So I bring up the idea of kissing, and she says, yeah, I really don't like kissing. Okay, that's information. But after and I don't mean to refer to nagging when I say this, but if you bring up kissing conversationally 10 more times, oh, like I really like that kiss in that movie when they
Mhm.
shared that kiss in that scene, it seemed to really take their relationship to another level. Yeah, but I don't like kissing. Or whatever it is she says.
Mhm.
her reaction or his reaction from a woman's point of view in a hetero relationship, the reaction is going to be less intense each time because I'm getting exposed to the same idea, and no human brain can be as revolted or put off by any stimuli that is being repeated over and over and over. So, again, in order to see if she's the kind of person who is capable of growing, capable of liking you enough to give you a kiss, you might bring up, hey, and she says, how are you doing? Well, I'm doing pretty good, but man, my mind has been preoccupied. Really, what are you thinking about? I keep thinking about kissing you. I know it's not something you're into, but it's taken on the whole forbidden fruit thing. And it's like, man, now I know what Adam felt like in the Garden of Eden. It's pretty fun, pretty intense. And she again might, at some point, if you're casually amusing and funny about this, you're going to get a smile, you're going to get a chuckle. And at some point, I believe you're most likely going to get a kiss. And of course, even a kiss needs to be consensual. So if she gets to the point where she says, I know you want to kiss me, but I just can't. It's not in me. Okay, well, I'm probably not the right guy for you.
Yeah.
Because when I hang out with you and I see your face, the first thing I want to do is kiss it. And she hangs her head. Yeah, but can't we have a relationship without kissing? Well, we could. I would just have to, murder myself.
Yeah.
And, not be who I am.
Yeah.
Does that sound like fun to you? Well, no. Okay, so you know what? But you've got a younger sister, and I know she's open to dating, so I'm going to date her. And you have a nervous look on your face because that would be scary to say that.
Yeah. Well, a few things. Like, so you're saying doing that over and over, asking for the kiss again and again and again, that is considered like grooming. So
Well,
like it's better to just
I'm not going to ask for it over and over again explicitly, because then it starts sounding like a nag or a whining or, I'm just trying to break her down.
But if I ask a girl if I bring it up 5 times and she's still saying no, that's time to be like, that's like even 3 times maybe, I feel like that's not going to work for me.
Well, if dating is truly a recreational moment, and that's really what it is. We're there to have fun.
Yeah.
As long as it's fun, I'm down.
Okay.
We're gonna keep having fun with this thing. I might enjoy teasing her. I might enjoy that, seeing the slight changes in the way she feels about kissing.
Okay.
But at some point, if she, puts her foot down and says, look, I've made it clear that's a boundary. I don't want to do that.
Then.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. I had no idea you felt that strongly about it. But now that I do, I can certainly honor that boundary. I have to tell you, I don't see how we can go forward. Oh, you're going to break up with me because I didn't kiss you?
Yeah.
Well, is that all you ever think about is sex? No, it's not all I ever think about, but I do think about it because sexuality is a part of me that I want to honor. I don't want to repress it just because I really like you.
Yeah.
And if I'm the wrong kind of guy for you, then really it should be a good feeling to see the last of me, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that I don't want to turn myself into a nag, like the guy who's wanting some sort of unusual sexual position or favor or technique or something like that. And he whines and whines and whines about it like forever. I want to be the guy who is simply free to be himself. And if that self that I truly am is not somebody she can accept, then we both probably would be well served to move along.
And that is, again, back to the Madonna-Whore Complex, a way you have to be yourself. Both people have to be themselves.
Yeah. So for one of my female clients over the years, she met him. They had a great and exciting sex life. And then they started getting closer and eventually became engaged. She noticed the sex life changed a little bit. It slowed down. It became, on his part, a little more inhibited. but she didn't mind because he was simultaneously telling her how much he respects her and how much value he takes in her core nature. She was a kind, loving, and very intelligent woman.
So now he's shifting more towards the Madonna.
He
So
is
it's like
shifting toward
the
the
weight
Madonna.
started changing.
And then
Like,
after the marriage, sex became much less frequent. And then after pregnancy, it stopped virtually altogether. After childbirth, you can't very well have sex with the Holy Mother, so it came to a virtual standstill like a couple times a year.
so I'm thinking of it on the weighted scale of, and it should be equal, right?
When you say it should be equal, what do you mean?
The Madonna whore. So it's like Madonna whore, and it should be equal. But if you go like this, and then it's more in the Madonna and the whores down here, then
I can't imagine what our audience is thinking about right now to put it in those terms. But for me, the overall solution for all of the viewers right now is that incumbent upon each one of us is the requirement to integrate our sexuality with our spirituality. So I have to find a way to be who I am within my spiritual outlook. And even for the non-religious, it means within the overall bulk of my values. I feel good about disclosing this, about having these fantasies, about sharing my sexual history with my partners. And if I run into a potential mate who's uncomfortable with that, that I can fall away and move on with someone else because I've integrated my sexuality and my spirituality so that I no longer have guilt or shame about who I am,
so that's
what
what
I
it means to
want,
integrate it.
and who I've been. Yes, I've integrated. These values are integrated with my sexual history, my sexual fantasies, and my sexual practices. So if somebody masturbates, I remember one of my clients, she was in a committed monogamous relationship with her boyfriend. He came home unexpectedly one day, walked into the bedroom while she was masturbating. He was horribly offended, rolled his eyes, expressed verbally some disgust, and left the room. To me, that's a real moment of needing to look at all of this. Is he integrating his sexuality and spirituality? Is she? Because I can tell you her own spirituality didn't include, oh, I could stay with somebody who has no respect for me, or I could stay with somebody who needs to control my sexual choices even when there's no one else in the room.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, it makes no sense and it simply can't work. So this is a very valuable litmus test for all relationships.
Yeah.
And if we're not there in a current relationship for those who are married, I think having a frank discussion about it. Do you think we have sexual intimacy? Do you think that we both have integrated our sexuality with our values? And do you think we're able to express ourselves so far freely and comfortably? And maybe can you remember a time it was kind of scary for you to share something with me?
Yeah.
Another example of one of my clients who was,
And what happened with them really quick?
oh, that couple, they
Yeah.
broke up.
Because he couldn't.
Eventually they broke up, but it was very soon after that because she was living under a permanent sense of judgment.
Because he couldn't let it go.
He never mentioned it again, but it was always, she was a one down position. And
So that shifted the equality.
yeah,
If we could go back to scale.
well, he was the moral one.
Mhm.
She was the immoral slut. And so how's he supposed to respect her?
So that imbalance will never be able to that imbalance will kind of ruin the relationship, it seems.
If allowed to continue.
If allowed to continue without it being resolved. It's almost like a conflict that needs to be resolved.
Absolutely it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a conflict for which we have no words.
And were they married or were they not?
They were not.
Okay.
They were living together.
Okay.
So
kind of
in my office, working with a group of men, I remember one time talking about this same concept and the idea of Intimacy being part of that would be historic intimacy, the ability to safely share our histories with one another.
Yeah.
Because there are such people who are very uncomfortable, even though you're 40 in a day, you're the idea that you might have fallen in love hard with somebody else prior to meeting her, that's offensive. That means you don't really love her. Now, that to me, that's part of your sexuality, part of your sexual history. Of course, loving people fall in love. That's what they do. There's nothing weird about that. And in fact, it would be scary to date somebody who'd never been in love before,
Yeah.
because that would mean they're not a particularly loving person. But to be able to, the group confronted me because I said, I would want to know everything about someone I love because I love her and everything about her is of interest to me and is ultimately a lovable part of who she is.
And they were like, bullshit.
Yeah, they said, and we started talking about that's why I would want to know her sexual history. Well, you'd want to know how many partners she had? But yeah, absolutely. Why not? I would want to know what worked for her, what didn't work for her. There's nothing I wouldn't want to know.
Yeah.
And because it's in the past. This is part of who she was that enabled her to become who she is. So if we can't have this resolution of the Madonna-Whore complex, then we're not really ever going to be able to truly be close and loving with one another. And that's the mic drop. I got nothing after that.
Okay. I was trying to wring you out dry in this one. So